The military officers at West Point thought they knew exactly who Elena Martinez was. For 18 months she had been the invisible janitor who cleaned their halls and classrooms with methodical precision. With her stunning blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail beneath her maintenance cap, and her emerald green eyes that seemed to notice everything while revealing nothing, she moved through the prestigious military academy like a ghost, present but unremarkable, efficient but forgettable. Colonel Marcus Thompson barely acknowledged her existence as she mopped the floors outside his office in the Thayer Hall Academic Building. The Academy's deputy commandant was focused on classified briefings spread across his desk, discussing the upcoming graduation ceremony with his senior staff. Around them, the polished marble surfaces of West Point's corridors reflected the morning sunlight streaming through tall windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Elena was methodically cleaning. "The security protocols for graduation day are comprehensive," Colonel Thompson said to Major Harrison, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "Every dignitary, every family member, every cadet has been vetted through multiple layers of clearance." Elena moved silently between offices, emptying trash bins and dusting surfaces. Her hands worked with practiced efficiency, but her emerald eyes tracked every conversation, every document briefly visible, every security protocol casually discussed. She had perfected the art of being invisible, a skill that had served her well during her 18-month assignment at the nation's most prestigious military academy. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes glanced up from his tablet as she approached to empty his wastebasket. "Thanks, Martinez," he said absently, already turning back to his conversation about cadet honor code violations. To him she was simply part of the background, as unremarkable as the marble statues and brass fixtures that adorned the historic building. The morning routine continued with clockwork precision. Officers arrived, conducted their meetings, discussed classified academy operations, and departed for their duties overseeing the training of America's future military leaders. Elena served them all with the same quiet efficiency, her presence so consistently unremarkable that she had become virtually invisible to the most security-conscious personnel in the military education system. "Martinez, the Memorial Hall needs extra attention today," called Facility Supervisor Rodriguez from behind his desk. The civilian manager who supervised the maintenance operations treated her with professional courtesy, but like the others, he saw only what she allowed him to see, a competent janitor who kept her head down and did her job without complaint. Elena nodded and gathered her cleaning supplies, moving toward Memorial Hall, where portraits of West Point's most distinguished graduates lined the walls. As she worked, she passed beneath images of generals and presidents, heroes and leaders who had shaped American military history. Each portrait represented a legacy of service and sacrifice that gave weight to every conversation she overheard, every security detail she observed. In the cadet mess hall, she cleaned tables while overhearing discussions about upcoming military assignments, deployment schedules, and classified training exercises. The future officers spoke freely around her, treating her presence as they would any other piece of academy infrastructure. "The new counterterrorism protocols require enhanced security clearances," one senior cadet was explaining to his classmates. "If the intelligence networks are compromised, enemy operatives could infiltrate our most secure installations." Elena made notes on her maintenance checklist, but her trained mind cataloged the security vulnerabilities being discussed. These conversations, seemingly casual to the participants, formed patterns that revealed operational weaknesses she had been sent to identify and assess. Colonel Thompson's voice carried across the mess hall as he briefed two visiting generals. "West Point represents the pinnacle of military education and leadership development. Our security protocols are absolutely impenetrable, especially during high-profile events like graduation." Elena finished cleaning the tables and moved toward the kitchen area, where she began sanitizing surfaces with the same methodical precision she brought to everything else. But behind her unremarkable exterior, she processed the colonel's confident assertion about impenetrable security, knowing from her observations that several critical vulnerabilities existed in their protocols. The academy operated like a precision military instrument during the morning rush. Elena worked alongside 6 other civilian maintenance staff, all of whom had been thoroughly vetted by Army security. None of them knew that the quiet blonde woman scrubbing floors beside them possessed security clearances and military decorations that exceeded those of most officers in the building. "Martinez, you're assigned to the graduation ceremony setup," Supervisor Rodriguez announced. "Secretary of Defense will be attending, along with several 4-star generals. Everything needs to be perfect." Elena acknowledged the assignment with a simple nod. High-level graduation ceremonies always involve discussions of the highest classification levels, exactly the kind of intelligence-gathering opportunity she had been positioned to exploit. For 18 months, she had been building a comprehensive profile of security vulnerabilities in the Academy's most sensitive operations. As the morning activities concluded, and the Academy entered its brief lull before lunch preparations, Elena cleaned her equipment with the same attention to detail she applied to every task. Around her, the other maintenance staff discussed weekend plans and family obligations, normal conversations that reinforced her carefully constructed cover identity. Supervisor Rodriguez approached her station, reviewing the graduation setup schedule. "The ceremony begins at 0900 tomorrow," he said. "All maintenance personnel need to be in position by 0700 for final security sweeps." Elena had been preparing for this graduation ceremony for months. She knew the schedule, the security protocols, the placement of every dignitary and family member. Each detail provided another opportunity to observe and document the vulnerabilities that governed the Academy's most critical public events. The graduation setup began at 1300 hours. Elena worked with practiced efficiency, her hands moving through familiar motions while her mind processed months of intelligence collection. The security checkpoints, the communication protocols, the emergency response procedures, all of it formed a comprehensive picture of the Academy's operational readiness and potential weaknesses. At 1500 hours, an urgent alarm sounded throughout the Academy. Elena looked up from her work as the public address system crackled to life with an emergency announcement that would change everything. "All personnel report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Potential security breach in progress." The graduation preparation area erupted into controlled chaos as cadets and officers abandoned their duties and rushed toward their emergency assignments. Elena watched from behind a maintenance cart as the most senior military educators in the country mobilized for what appeared to be a genuine crisis. Colonel Thompson's voice cut through the noise as he coordinated with his officers. "All Academy security to the command center immediately. We have confirmed hostile infiltration of the graduation ceremony perimeter." Elena felt her pulse quicken as she processed the severity of the situation. A security breach at West Point during graduation preparations represented one of the most dangerous scenarios possible at America's premier military academy. If hostile operatives had penetrated the ceremony perimeter, they could threaten not just the graduating cadets, but the Secretary of Defense and multiple high-ranking officials scheduled to attend. Supervisor Rodriguez appeared beside her, his face grim with concern. "All maintenance staff are to remain at assigned positions until further notice," he said. "Emergency protocols require all civilian personnel to maintain posts until the situation is resolved." Elena nodded, but her mind was already processing the implications of the crisis. 18 months of intelligence gathering had given her intimate knowledge of the Academy's emergency procedures, and she understood better than most civilian personnel just how serious a security breach could become. Through the tall windows of the graduation setup area, she could see military personnel moving with urgent purpose across the Academy grounds. Emergency vehicles raced between buildings, their flashing lights reflecting off the gray stone facades of the historic structures. The ceremonial parade ground where tomorrow's graduation was scheduled sat empty, surrounded by security teams working to contain whatever threat had been detected. The public address system crackled again with an update. "All personnel with counterterrorism training report to Command Center Alpha immediately. Hostile operatives have been identified within the Academy perimeter. Enhanced security protocols are in effect." Elena's training kicked in as she heard the specific terminology being used. Hostile operatives within the Academy perimeter represented one of the most dangerous scenarios possible during a high-profile event. If enemy agents had infiltrated the graduation preparations, they could potentially threaten the lives of America's future military leaders and senior government officials. Colonel Thompson's voice echoed from the command center, his words carrying clearly through the facility's emergency communication system. "We need someone who understands advanced counterterrorism protocols. The standard response procedures may not be sufficient for this level of threat." Elena felt a chill of recognition. Advanced counterterrorism protocols required specialized knowledge that few personnel possessed, expertise gained only through extensive field operations in hostile environments, the kind of experience that was carefully hidden in classified personnel files. "Where's Major Davidson, our counterterrorism specialist?" Colonel Thompson's voice demanded over the communication system. "We need his expertise immediately." The response came back immediately, tinged with desperation. "Sir, Major Davidson is overseas on classified assignment. He's unavailable for at least 72 hours. We're trying to locate other personnel with advanced counterterrorism experience." Elena realized with growing alarm that the Academy might not have anyone immediately available with the specific tactical knowledge needed to resolve the crisis.
Advanced counterterrorism operations required expertise that only a handful of personnel possessed, skills developed through classified missions in hostile environments. Supervisor Rodriguez appeared again, his face showing the stress of the developing emergency. All maintenance staff are to remain calm, he announced, though his own voice betrayed his concern. The situation is being handled by qualified military personnel, but Elena knew from her extensive intelligence gathering that the Academy's qualified counterterrorism personnel were either unavailable or already committed to other emergency duties. The graduation ceremony site was potentially compromised by hostile operatives, and the tactical response required expertise that might not be immediately accessible. The emergency continued to escalate over the next 30 minutes.
Elena listened to the communications traffic, her training allowing her to understand the tactical details that most civilian personnel would find incomprehensible. The security breach had been confirmed. Hostile operatives were believed to be targeting high-value personnel scheduled to attend graduation, and the standard security protocols were insufficient for the threat level. At 15:45 hours, the situation reached a critical point. Colonel Thompson's voice over the emergency communications carried a note of barely controlled urgency. We have confirmation of multiple hostile operatives positioned throughout the ceremony area. If we cannot neutralize this threat, we'll have to cancel graduation and evacuate all personnel. Elena understood the implications better than anyone else in the maintenance area. Canceling the West Point graduation ceremony would represent a strategic victory for enemy operatives, demonstrating that hostile forces could disrupt America's most prestigious military institution. The psychological and strategic consequences would be devastating. She made a decision that would end her 18-month deep cover mission. Moving with sudden purpose, Elena walked toward the emergency communication station in the graduation setup area. Her movements caught Supervisor Rodriguez's attention, who watched with confusion as the quiet janitor approached equipment that civilian personnel were not authorized to access. "Martinez, what are you doing?" Rodriguez called out, moving to intercept her. Elena paused at the communication station, her hand reaching toward the transmit button. For 18 months she had maintained perfect cover, gathering intelligence while remaining invisible to even the most security-conscious personnel. But now, maintaining that cover would mean allowing a terrorist threat to succeed against America's premier military academy. She reached into her maintenance uniform pocket and withdrew a small metallic object that had been concealed there for over a year. The Medal of Honor caught the fluorescent light as it fell from her fingers, hitting the polished marble floor with a distinctive metallic sound that seemed to echo through the suddenly quiet preparation area. Supervisor Rodriguez froze, his eyes fixed on the medal that no civilian maintenance worker should possess. The Medal of Honor represented the highest military decoration for valor in combat, a recognition that required extraordinary heroism in the face of enemy action. Elena activated the communication system with practiced authority, her voice carrying a command presence that had been hidden for 18 months. "Command Center Alpha, this is Colonel Martinez, authorization code Phoenix 77 Alpha. I have advanced counterterrorism capability and am assuming tactical command." The response was immediate, Colonel Thompson's voice sharp with surprise and hope. "Colonel Martinez, identify yourself and confirm authorization." Elena's training took over completely. "Colonel, I am Colonel Elena Martinez, Special Operations Command, operating under classified deep cover assignment. I possess current certification for advanced counterterrorism operations and tactical threat neutralization." Supervisor Rodriguez stared at her in shock, his understanding of everything he thought he knew about the quiet janitor completely shattered. Around the preparation area, other maintenance staff and remaining personnel watched in stunned silence as the woman they had considered invisible for over a year revealed capabilities none of them had suspected. "Colonel Martinez, your authorization is confirmed," Colonel Thompson's voice responded. "Report to Command Center immediately. We have multiple hostile operatives in position for potential attack." Elena removed her maintenance cap completely, revealing her blonde hair freed from its regulation constraints. Her posture shifted from the unassuming demeanor she had maintained for 18 months to the confident bearing of someone accustomed to leading counterterrorism operations of the highest complexity. Supervisor Rodriguez found his voice. "Elena, Colonel Martinez, I don't understand." She turned to face him, and for the first time in their 18 months of working together, he saw her true identity reflected in her emerald green eyes. "Rodriguez, I've been conducting a classified security assessment of Academy protocols while maintaining cover. My background is special operations, specialized in counterterrorism and tactical response." The preparation area's doors burst open as emergency personnel arrived to escort her to the command center. Two Special Forces officers, both wearing the insignia of counterterrorism specialists, approached with expressions that mixed relief and curiosity. "Colonel Martinez," the senior officer asked. "Major Wells, Special Operations. We've been briefed on your qualifications. The situation is critical." Elena nodded, her mind already shifting completely from her cover identity to the tactical challenges awaiting her. "What's the current threat assessment?" "Multiple hostile operatives confirmed. Estimated 6 to 8 personnel with advanced weapons and potential explosive devices positioned throughout the graduation ceremony area." As they moved toward the command center, Elena paused to address Supervisor Rodriguez one final time. "Rodriguez, my assignment here was classified at the highest levels. The maintenance staff were never meant to know my true purpose." Rodriguez nodded slowly, still processing the revelation. 18 months, he said quietly. "You were watching everything." "I was protecting everything," she corrected. "Just like I'm about to do now." Elena followed the escort team toward the Academy Command Center. Her 18-month deep cover mission officially concluded. Behind her, the preparation area remained in stunned silence, as the maintenance staff tried to comprehend how the quiet janitor who had worked beside them had possessed capabilities none of them had ever suspected. The emergency escort moved quickly through the Academy's corridors, their path cleared by security personnel who had been briefed on the developing crisis. Elena's mind focused completely on the tactical challenges ahead, drawing on counterterrorism expertise that had been concealed behind her cover identity for over a year. "Colonel, the hostile operatives appear to be professionally trained," Major Wells explained as they approached the command center. "They've positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the ceremony area with clear fields of fire on the main platform where dignitaries will be seated." Elena processed the tactical details, her training allowing her to visualize the complex security environment surrounding West Point's graduation ceremony. "What about their extraction plan?" "Unknown, but they've demonstrated knowledge of our security protocols that suggests inside intelligence or extensive surveillance." They reached the command center, where emergency personnel had established a tactical operations hub, coordinating the response to the terrorist threat. Colonel Thompson stood at the center of the operation, managing communications with multiple security teams while maintaining contact with Pentagon officials monitoring the crisis. When he saw Elena approaching, his expression showed both relief and curiosity. For 18 months she had cleaned his office floors without either of them realizing her true qualifications. Now, she represented his best hope for resolving a terrorist threat that could devastate America's premier military academy. "Colonel Martinez," Colonel Thompson said, his voice carrying the weight of command authority mixed with genuine gratitude. "Thank you for stepping forward." Elena nodded, her focus entirely on the tactical situation. "Colonel, I need immediate access to all surveillance feeds and authorization to coordinate tactical response teams." "Granted. Whatever you need." Elena approached the central command console, where multiple screens displayed live feeds from security cameras positioned throughout the academy. Her trained eyes immediately began identifying patterns in the hostile operatives' positions, analyzing their tactical deployment for weaknesses and potential response strategies. The command center was filled with emergency personnel working frantically to coordinate the response to the terrorist threat. Intelligence officers monitored communications intercepts while tactical teams prepared for potential engagement. Everyone understood that failure could result in casualties among America's future military leaders and senior government officials. Elena studied the surveillance feeds with the focus of someone intimately familiar with counterterrorism operations. The hostile operatives had positioned themselves with professional expertise, establishing overlapping fields of fire and clear escape routes. Each position represented years of specialized training in assault tactics and strategic planning. "Current count is 8 confirmed hostiles," reported the intelligence officer monitoring the tactical screens, all carrying advanced weapons and suspected explosive devices. Elena's fingers moved across the command console with practiced precision. She began coordinating response teams, positioning tactical personnel to neutralize the threats while minimizing risk to academy personnel and visiting dignitaries. The operation required timing and execution that left no margin for error. "Beginning tactical coordination protocol," she announced, her voice calm despite the critical nature of the operation. The first phase involved repositioning special forces teams to establish containment around each hostile operative. Elena coordinated their movements through secure communications, ensuring that each team understood their specific objectives and the timing required for simultaneous action. "Team Alpha, position for containment of Target 1, she directed through the tactical communication system. "Team Bravo, establish overwatch on Targets 2 and 3. As Elena worked, she became aware that her actions were being observed not just by the command center personnel, but by senior officers who had known her only as a maintenance worker. The transformation from invisible janitor to tactical commander represented a revelation that challenged everything they thought they understood about personnel security and cover operations. "Colonel, we're showing positive positioning across all tactical teams," reported Major Wells. "All hostile targets are under surveillance and containment is being established." Elena continued coordinating the counterterrorism response, her focus unwavering despite the attention her actions had drawn. Each tactical decision had to be precisely timed and executed, with no allowance for the kind of mistakes that could result in casualties among the academy personnel or visiting officials. The second phase required coordinating simultaneous tactical strikes against all hostile positions. Elena's training and experience converged in the successful planning of an operation that would neutralize multiple threats while maintaining the security of America's most prestigious military academy. "All teams report ready status," came the confirmation through the tactical communications network. Awaiting execute command, Elena reviewed the final tactical positions one more time, ensuring that each team had clear fields of engagement and adequate backup support. The operation would require perfect timing and execution to succeed without casualties. At 16:27 hours, Elena gave the execute command. "All teams, execute, execute, execute." The tactical response unfolded with military precision across multiple locations simultaneously. Each Special Forces team engaged their assigned targets using specialized tactics designed to minimize collateral damage while ensuring complete threat neutralization. "Target 1 neutralized," reported Team Alpha. "Targets 2 and 3 secured," confirmed Team Bravo. One by one, each hostile operative was neutralized through coordinated tactical strikes that demonstrated the effectiveness of Elena's operational planning. The terrorist threat that had endangered America's premier military academy was eliminated through professional execution of advanced counterterrorism protocols. At 16:34 hours, the final target was neutralized. All hostile operatives had been captured or eliminated, and the graduation ceremony area was declared secure. The terrorist attack that could have devastated West Point and threatened senior government officials was prevented through tactical intervention that only Elena possessed the qualifications to coordinate. Colonel Thompson's voice echoed through the command center's communication system. "All stations, this is the commandant. The terrorist threat has been neutralized." Secure from emergency operations, Elena stepped back from the command console. Her 18-month cover mission permanently concluded, but her primary objective successfully accomplished. The terrorist threat had required her to reveal capabilities that no simple maintenance worker could possess, ending her invisibility but protecting the academy from potential catastrophe. As the immediate crisis passed, Elena found herself surrounded by military personnel whose respect was evident in their expressions. For 18 months she had been invisible to most of them, cleaning their offices and maintaining their facilities while possessing qualifications that exceeded many of their own. Major Wells approached her as the command center returned to normal operations. "Colonel, that was extraordinary tactical coordination. How long have you been qualified in advanced counterterrorism operations?" Elena considered her response carefully. "My special operations background spans multiple combat deployments, including specialized training in terrorist threat neutralization. This assignment required those qualifications to remain classified." Colonel Thompson approached the command console, his expression showing a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Colonel Martinez, I believe we need to discuss your assignment at this academy." Elena nodded, understanding that her cover was permanently compromised, but her mission successfully completed. "Colonel, I was conducting an 18-month security assessment of academy protocols. Today's emergency demonstrated both the vulnerabilities and the safeguards that exist within our operations." The next several hours were spent in detailed debriefing sessions, as Elena provided comprehensive analysis of the security vulnerabilities she had identified during her cover assignment. Her observations about communication protocols, personnel security awareness, and operational vulnerabilities formed a detailed assessment that would reshape academy security procedures. General Patterson, who had arrived from the Pentagon to monitor the crisis, participated in the debriefing with keen interest. "Colonel, your assessment of our security protocols will be invaluable. How many personnel were aware of your true assignment?" "Minimal essential personnel only, sir." The cover operation required complete compartmentalization to be effective. Elena's report detailed numerous instances where classified information had been discussed casually in her presence, security protocols that had been overlooked, and operational details that had been revealed through the assumption that maintenance personnel posed no intelligence-gathering threat. The terrorist infiltration, General Patterson observed, required you to reveal capabilities that immediately compromised your cover. What was your assessment of the risk versus benefit? Elena had prepared for this question during the months of planning her assignment. Sir, the primary mission was intelligence gathering, but the fundamental purpose was protecting Academy operations. When the emergency required tactical intervention that only I could provide, the choice was clear. Over the following days, Elena's assessment report became the foundation for comprehensive updates to Academy security protocols. Her 18 months of invisible observation had identified vulnerabilities that conventional security reviews had missed, providing insights that could only be gained through sustained covert assessment. Supervisor Rodriguez requested a personal meeting with Elena before her departure from the Academy. They met in the same maintenance facility where she had maintained her cover for 18 months, but now their conversation occurred with complete honesty about her true identity and mission. 18 months, Rodriguez said, still processing the revelation. You cleaned our floors, maintained our facilities, listened to our conversations. What did you think of us? Elena considered the question carefully. Rodriguez, I observed dedicated personnel performing critical educational missions under demanding circumstances. The security vulnerabilities I identified weren't the result of negligence, but of human nature and familiar environments. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Will there be others, other people like you, watching and assessing? Elena smiled slightly, the first genuine expression of warmth she had allowed herself during their entire working relationship. Rodriguez, effective security depends on multiple layers of protection, some visible, some invisible. Her departure from West Point occurred with the same lack of fanfare that had characterized her arrival 18 months earlier. Elena Martinez, the invisible maintenance worker, simply disappeared one morning, replaced by Colonel Elena Martinez, whose classified report would influence military academy security protocols for years to come. The maintenance facility resumed normal operations, but the cleaning staff found themselves viewing their work environment with new awareness. The quiet efficiency that had once seemed unremarkable now carried the possibility that any of their colleagues might possess capabilities and purposes that extended far beyond facility maintenance. Colonel Thompson implemented Elena's security recommendations immediately, establishing new protocols for classified discussion in common areas, enhanced personnel security awareness training, and procedures for identifying and protecting against covert observation operations conducted by hostile intelligence services. 6 months after Elena's departure, General Patterson received a classified briefing on military academy security improvements that had resulted from her assessment. The number of security vulnerabilities identified and corrected through her recommendations had exceeded all previous security reviews, demonstrating the value of sustained covert observation by qualified personnel. The colonel's assessment, General Patterson noted in his confidential report to Army leadership, identified security gaps that conventional reviews could not detect. Her tactical intervention during the terrorist threat saved not just the graduation ceremony, but potentially the lives of senior government officials and America's future military leaders. Elena's next assignment took her to a different military installation, where she would again assume an invisible role while conducting security assessments that could only be accomplished through sustained covert observation. Her identity would change, her cover would be different, but her mission would remain the same, protecting critical military operations by identifying and addressing vulnerabilities that conventional security could not detect. The West Point graduation ceremony proceeded as scheduled the following day, with enhanced security protocols based on the emergency procedures Elena had implemented. The counterterrorism response she had coordinated became the standard for military academy security, providing additional layers of protection against the type of sophisticated attack that had nearly succeeded. Supervisor Rodriguez never again viewed maintenance personnel with simple assumptions about their backgrounds or capabilities. Elena's revelation had demonstrated that effective security often required the most qualified personnel to appear completely ordinary, invisible guardians whose true purpose remained hidden until the moment their expertise became critical for mission success. Years later, when new maintenance staff asked about the legendary janitor who had saved the academy, the story had taken on mythical qualities in its retelling. But those who had been present during the terrorist threat understood the essential truth. The most effective protectors often moved invisibly through the world, their true capabilities hidden behind carefully maintained covers until the moment when someone needed to step forward and coordinate the response that only they possessed the expertise to lead. The Medal of Honor that had fallen from Elena's maintenance uniform was eventually displayed in the Academy's Hall of Honor, a reminder that critical expertise could be found in the most unexpected places. Below it, a small plaque bore a simple inscription, "In recognition of those who serve in silence until duty demands they step into the light." Elena Martinez had completed her mission successfully, protecting West Point's operations while gathering intelligence that would enhance security for years to come. Her 18 months of invisible service had culminated in preventing a terrorist attack and providing security assessments that conventional reviews could never accomplish.
She had proven that the most effective guardians were often those who asked for no recognition, carrying their expertise silently until the moment when their knowledge became essential for protecting those they had been sent to serve.